Hi, everyone. Welcome to another interview in honor of the 75th anniversary for HRAF. Today we have John Millhauser from NC State. John is an archaeologist, associate professor, and director of graduate programs for anthropology in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. John, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So,
Um,
John, tell us about your affiliation with HRAF, how long you've been familiar with us, and how you worked with us.
I first learned about HRAF as a graduate student, learning about cross-cultural comparative research. And when I got to NC State and started teaching, I learned about the ability to subscribe to HRAF and talk to our library, and they were open to it. So we started a subscription, which allowed me to use it for teaching purposes. I also wanted it for my own research purposes because it's such a great tool to kind of, in a structured way, investigate different features of cultures. Um, so that's how I kind of first learned about it, and then reached out in order to bring it here to campus.
I know you contributed a teaching activity, which we posted on
Yeah.
our Teaching eHRAF platform. Can you tell us about that teaching activity?
Yeah. So the first time I used HRAF in a substantial way was during an environmental archaeology class, and I was looking for ways to bridge ethnographic data, which is so important to be able to um, kind of closely understand the ways people behave and adapt and adjust to their environments, and then bridge that to material evidence in the past. Uh, and so the HRAF gave me an opportunity to bring students in to a database where they could search by particular regions of the world or environments, particular subsistence strategies, and in particular, different ways that they might relate to the environment. So we would play around with some conceptual ideas, try and figure out if we could look at different attitudes towards nature, or maybe terms or ideas that and define those relationships. We were able to, once I got students kind of comfortable with using the database and I developed some training exercises, start to take examples that we might read about in an archaeological piece and then look for cross-cultural comparisons in the present day that they could explore and bring to class. And a good example of that is the role of fire as something that is either seen, experienced as something that people have little control over, or that is part of the way that different groups make use of, adapt to, or live in their environments, using controlled burn among foragers, among farming societies, and pastoralists as well. And so it gave them a chance to very quickly get into some ethnographic sources. Um, there was always not quality control, but always kind of making sure that it wasn't reading a story about the fire god, but instead we were, getting to a practice that described how people used fire in their relationship to the land. But then they could kind of bring in new information quickly to a conversation, and then also use that as a way to build out the research projects that they were doing for the semester. So in-class opportunities to put it into practice and to learn the language of the coding system, and then kind of continue to use it to deepen their interest in subjects of their own choosing.
It's great how you've been able to see the intersection between the ethnographic record and the archaeological record. That's really
Yeah.
important, and we try to emphasize that as well. Are there any final words you'd like to say about HRAF at this point?
No, I'm glad that it's still here. I'm glad that it continues to grow. I'm glad that it exists in a way that is also self-reflective. I've been using it recently with classes for students to also study anthropology as a discipline. And it becomes a kind of meta document of that as well too. And so, they've been trying to learn about how the craft formed, and how anthropologists make choices about what to study and what to share with others. And so that's been really valuable and a component that I didn't expect when I first started working with it. So, if anything, when you create something, you may have a goal or an intention for it, as with the original creators of the HRAF. And sometimes it takes on new and kind of unpredicted and wonderful aspects that develop. And in this case, it's a good example for me of something so rich that ends up paying dividends or creating new pathways of learning that no one ever anticipated when they put it together.
Well, thank you for introducing students to eHRAF. We really appreciate that. And thank you also for joining us today. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Do you want me to try